Hello,
Hey,
everyone. Hello, everyone in the Hot Breathiverse. This is Hot Breath Live. This is where you get to ask your favorite comedians your favorite questions. And today is a Hot Breath favorite. She was guest number 5, and then guest number 100 and something. And now we are back with the one and only Mia Jackson. Everyone, give her a round of applause, please. Give her a round of applause. Or
yay!
let me turn on the applause sound effect. Here we go. Yeah. All
I'll take
right.
whatever.
Oh, Carly Sherrick already says hello, hello, and she says hi, Guinness. She says hi to my dog in the background. Yes, yes. If you watch Mia's YouTube interview with us, um, my dog actually makes an appearance in that one as well. So it's worth a gander. But just off the jump here, first off, Mia Jackson, one of my favorite comedians, just in comedy in general, an absolute just force to be reckoned with on the stage. So if we could just give him a brief introduction to you, who you are, how we got to where we are, the basics.
All right. Well, hey, I'm Mia Jackson, and look, let me tell people to stop messaging me. I'm My sister keeps messaging me right now, but I'm Mia Jackson. Let's see. I actually started in Athens, Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went to Atlanta, and at the moment where I'm currently located, I'm kind of mostly in New York. I'm not there at this moment today because, well, you've seen the news,
Thank
but I
goodness,
am,
yeah.
I'm currently hanging out in the DC area for the moment
Mm-hmm.
as I'm quarantining. But what else? What else do people need to know? I mean, last November I had a Comedy Central half hour come out, so that was pretty cool. And I'm actually supposed to be on something, I think, this Sunday, according to some YouTube thing that I saw. It's going to be on Comedy Central, a thing called This Is Stand Up. Yeah. So I just saw an
Oh,
article about that. Yeah.
congratulations. I saw an article about that's great.
So I saw an
I just
article.
realized
I
I'm
was
gonna be on
like, oh,
TV.
yeah, because it was something I did last year. And I was like, oh, it's out this weekend. Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
So that's super cool. Yeah.
Congratulations. And Carly says she loves the gold background. So,
Thank you, Carly. This let me tell you how this came to be. First, I was doing a live in another room, and I had another background set up, but the background was just covering my quarantine snacks. And when I was talking, the background fell down. So my friend was like, "Is that your quarantine stuff behind you?" And it was just stacks of water and body armor and juice and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm like, "Oh yeah." So this is a full setup against an actual wall, and there's nothing behind me but a wall.
oh my
So,
gosh, it fell down in the middle of the live.
oh, I was just talking. I'm like, "Oh yeah," and I was like, "Oh yeah, those are my snacks. Yes, my whole just yeah, I like a straight up hoarder. It wasn't even that much stuff, but that's what it looked like. So I've made sure that this is secure. It is pinned into, and the thing is, this is one of my boyfriend is a photographer, so this is one of his
Hmm.
backdrops. And
Oh
he told me
yeah.
before, yeah, and he told me beforehand when I put up the other stuff, he was like, "Yo, do not use masking tape to put up your
Right.
background." And I'm like, "No, it's gonna totally be fine." And then he's like, and he was on the side, he happened to walk in, and he was like, "See, I knew it was gonna happen. I knew it was gonna happen." So here we are with the secure gold background.
Yeah, when we did our last interview together, you had just moved to the DC area and were commuting back and forth to New York. And
Yeah,
now, not currently at this moment, but now were you living in New York?
yeah. So I've been
Okay.
there. I mean, and I still pretty much split time, back and forth. But I'm, in being in Georgia, I'm just on the road a lot and just, in New York a good bit of time these days. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's a big popular question we get a lot of comics asking is what what went into that decision? So many comics like, well, when do I know when I'm ready to move to New York or LA? What was that decision process for you?
Well, you know what? The main thing was really is just that one of my friends had a room available,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, okay, I'll just rent your room.
Oh,
So
oh, you make it sound so easy.
no, well, let me. Okay, it wasn't that easy, but no, it was one of those things, where I think anybody that is pursuing comedy, eventually that's gonna come up, or somebody's like, where do I go next? Which one do I
Mm-hmm.
go to? And for me, I've been in Atlanta for a long time, and I just kind of, and this was for me. And again, and that's what I always try to preface most things by, because sometimes, you'll get different pieces of advice from people, but, because some people go, and I do think this does happen. Some people will go to those places before they're really ready to go, and then you end up struggling a whole lot harder than what you probably needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like if you feel that you have reached a point where you have kind of done everything that you can do in whatever city you're in, then that may be a good time to go into looking to make the move. But I mean, I think if somebody's been doing comedy for like a year or two, I mean, yeah, you could go. You could go. You could go to LA, you can go to New York, but it is going to be a whole lot harder. I mean, it's hard to go even being established, but it's like at least you know, have a good amount of material in the bank before
Mm.
you opt to make that move, because I mean, stage time in both places is really hard to get. And just from the friends I know that live in LA, it's even harder in LA to get stage time, because at least in New York, because you have the club system and all this stuff where you have to get passed to work in the clubs and things like that. But it's also like Brooklyn has its own comedy scene, and it's just so many, people have bar shows, and it's all these different kind of things you can do just to be on stage in New York. So at least you could get on stage. I mean, it's not super super easy, but it's nice to go like, hey, if I've been in Atlanta for 3 4 years, or I've been in Chicago for 3 4 years, and I'm working and I've done all the places in those cities, and I'm getting that quality stage time in. And then if you feel ready at that point, then sure, go ahead and make the move. But I mean, I know people that have gone too early, and then they go, oh, I went and then I needed to come back because
Mm-hmm.
this could stage. Yeah.
How long had you
Yeah.
been doing comedy before you moved up there?
Oh God, probably like uh, 14 years, 15 years, something like that. I mean, I've
Wow.
been doing
Okay.
it a long time, but full time, I've actually only been a full time comic for 6 years now. So I've been full time for 6 years. So I was full time for four before I went, or full
Boom.
time five before I was full time comic for 5 years before I went to New York. Yeah,
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 because yeah, I remember you'd made a few TV appearances, and you had been opening for Amy Schumer,
right, right, right.
and this was all before you moved to New York.
This was all before I moved. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I had within let me see, within the time of me going full time, like the what is it? So I went full time in April of 2014, and then by March or April of the next year, I did season 9 of Last Comic Standing,
Mm-hmm.
and then 2017 I was New Faces JFL. 2018, I did the thing with Epics, and then 2019, the Comedy Central half hour came out. But also in 2018 and part of 2019, I was on Amy Schumer's tour.
How did your life change once you got up to New York? Was it partly because we had Sean Patton on here, and he was giving just like the raw
Sean is
reality?
great.
Yeah, but
Sean is
he
good.
did not
Yeah.
sugarcoat moving to New York like at any level. But he was like, especially if you're trying to move up there to figure it out, he's like, here's the reality.
Mhm.
What's going to happen? What was your reality? I guess 14 years in, having a lot of established connections. What was that transition like?
Well, there's so I always, try to make the distinction that, I was, very lucky,
Hmm.
blessed, whatever words people want to use that when things come together, so I luckily I had gotten passed at the Comedy Cellar before I moved there.
Whoa.
So
Okay.
that was that really was really really helpful to be able to, and that happened that actually happened back in late 2016.
Hmm.
So and so I would still kind of go back and forth, and I was like the time I did the last time I was on with you, I think weeks ago when I was commuting back and forth, like
Yep.
that was part of why I was going back and forth to New York. So it was very, very lucky. It was a very, very lucky shot that I was able to get in because I was able to work and get on stage. And the Comedy Cellar is just like the absolute best, and it's three different rooms that you can get on. And so I was able to get stage time, but being there was really helpful for me because when other people, it's a bunch of the best comics working are working there. So a lot of those people run shows at other places. And then they were like, oh, well, you should come do my show at this spot or come do my show at this place or come do my show here. And then there were other people who I knew just from having been on the road and just having worked with them at, when I was in Atlanta or wherever I was just doing shows, it would be someone that I worked with that would go, oh, well, I didn't know you were here now. Oh, you're here? Well, come do my show. So a lot of that was, and again, I think some of it just happened too for me because I had already had a lot of experience. But then there are also just those things where it's like shows where it's people who don't know me at all. And then I still have to, I still have to prove myself on those shows too, where somebody's like, oh, like they might have just saw me one night somewhere. They're like, oh, well, can you come do my spot? So I still have to go through that thing of, oh, I'm a new person doing a
Hmm.
new spot. And shows can be pretty much anywhere in New York. And and it's like, oh, this show was in a small coffee shop where people are still currently drinking
Yep.
coffee right now, and
Yep.
or this, but yeah, so it's but it is a but coming in like that also helped me to meet people on all different levels of comedy too. And then and I see the people that are like, you know, doing really well where you're like, oh man, that person can just walk in anywhere. And then I also, have friends who are younger in comedy where I'm like, oh man, I'm glad I didn't come in,
Yeah.
at the 2 or 3 year mark because they're having a tough time. Like there's people that are like, man, I don't know if I really want to keep doing this here, or should I keep going, or what am I supposed to do? Or I feel really frustrated because it is a lot harder to get stage time if you are, if nobody knows who you are and if you're not in at the clubs and things like that. And then there's, and you still have people that, it's bringer shows where they're standing outside, like trying to get people to come in to
Hmm.
see the shows. So it's just a lot of stuff. But for me, it also just the everyday living part of New York has been a really big adjustment, and it's also really hard as well. So I would think like if you're doing that plus also going, oh wow, I'm a fresh new comic that's been doing comedy for 5 years and I'm gonna be in New York. Like it is not easy. I mean, it's a lot. Like I remember one of the first weeks that I was there because the first month that I was in New York, I actually was only there for like a total of 3 days because
Mm.
I was on the road, and that was when I had actually filmed the Comedy Central half hour. So I wasn't there, and so when I was officially there, just like for days on end, I remember just being on the train one night, and it was just disgusting. I mean, like it was absolutely just so gross.
Ooh.
It was, and people were, I mean, people like people were just. It was just. I felt like every cough landed on my jacket, and I was wearing like a wool coat, and I was like, oh, this has seeped into the fabric of my spirit, and I gotta get out of here. I was like, I need to even start wearing I was like, I gotta wear a jacket with a non-porous surface
Right.
because
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
very upsetting to me. Like so, and like that night, I just remember walking into the apartment, and I think the next day I just left and went to DC. And I just remember hitting on my boyfriend. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be there tomorrow. He was like, what happened to you? And I was like, the train. It
Yep.
was just the train. And my roommate is
Uh-huh.
like, where the hell are you going? And I was like, I'll be back in a few days. I'm like, I just need to be in a car and I just need to drive. But it's an adjustment. I mean, like, and so it is really hard if
Hmm.
you're trying to navigate comedy, but then also trying to navigate life because it is a lot. It's a lot. I mean, if you are used to being a person where you are, you're used to like, hey, I've got in my car and now I'm gonna drive to Target real quick. I'm just gonna go like in New York. To me, everything is a thought process before you go and do it. Where you're like, oh, if I go to Target, let me see. Should I have somebody deliver that thing to me, or should I get on the train? Should I Uber?
Oh
And
my
then when I get
gosh.
there, I had like, and since I don't have a car, I can only bring so much stuff back. Or do I go to a place where I can take my cart?
Yeah, it really
It's
tests your love for comedy. You're like, what am I willing to do? And
yeah, 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 yeah. And
and oh,
go
Micah,
ahead.
by the way, Micah says hello to you. So
Which Micah? Which
it's
hey Micah? But I'm
Meike. She's based in North Carolina, but she's a big fan of the show
oh,
and of you. But
hey, Micah.
we have a little under 15 minutes left with Mia, so people start commenting with your questions. And one common question I want to touch on real quick is we were talking about New York being a big struggle and transition, but right now our current situation is a
The
big another
world.
struggle and transition. So how have
Yeah.
you? I mean, for a lot of comics, it's like all my work is gone. How are you maximizing the time that you have now, and then how are you also making money?
No, I straight up been. I have been minimizing my
Okay.
time. I have
Uh huh.
not been doing anything really. I have
Okay.
not because I
Very
I
savvy.
was I realized the thing is I was traveling a lot and just doing a whole lot of stuff. So it's like, oh, okay, I can just kind of sit down and I can recalibrate. So I mean, I have been doing some stuff. So like I've a friend of mine, like we're writing some stuff together so we can pitch. Like I'm doing that, and then what else? Haven't really been like sitting down going, oh, I'm gonna write jokes today. Like I haven't done that because I haven't been outside. So it's like, what am I gonna comment on? Like, oh man, look at that! Like the covers changed. Like, what am I, on the bed? Look, we got a new comforter. Like, what am I gonna? No one wants
Yeah.
to. I mean, what am I if I can't comment on? I mean, and obviously you can comment on the news and things like that, but it's like we're all seeing the same thing, so we're all going to have a lot of similar takes. And and that's the thing that's missing. Where it's like if you go outside, you go have some interaction with someone at a store. I'm not going to have the same interaction that another person might have, and if we do, we may interpret it in different ways. But when we're consuming so much of the same content, that's why you end up seeing where 15, 30,000 people have made the same joke, like, and not even comics. It's people that are just everyday life. But
So you're focused on
you know,
writing. You're still creating, but not necessarily for the stage. But you're actually like writing a script. So
yeah, yeah,
still
yeah, yeah,
using your
yeah.
creative muscle, but in a different way.
Yeah, so that's what I've been doing. And then
That's
like,
cool.
you know, yeah, and then money wise, I mean, like I was luckily I saved some money. So
Smart.
that's
That corporate
it.
background.
That was good. So I had some money saved, and then I still had like, stuff that I did earlier this year where I was just waiting to get money from. So I have that. So like I'm okay for a little while, but it's still that thing where I'm like, oh, I don't have anything booked, So I'm like, so when that okay for a little while ends, I'm like, oh God, what am I gonna do? Like, do
Yeah.
I, yeah. So I'm like, do I need to give me a work from home job? Like, I still got a resume. I mean, it's old, but I still got, So who knows? I don't know.
So
So
you're
it's,
still you're trying to figure it out like the rest of us in a lot of
yeah.
ways.
I
Okay.
think a lot of yeah.
Seems like we
It's
all are.
yeah. Yeah, it's tough. So,
Oh, we got Trent Babb here. He's tuning in from California. Actually, he's out in the Fresno area.
hey, right?
Um, this is a fun one. Trent
Okay.
Babb said, "I watched one of your Comedy Cellar sets. So you've
Uh,
also been a part of that Comedy Central
this,
releasing these Comedy Cellar
yeah,
sets as
this week
well.
this week at the cellar. Yeah.
I watched one of your Comedy Cellar sets." And then one of your corporate gigs. The corporate gig was more creative, original, and I think it's because you weren't relying on the word bitch. Do you feel trapped by that word at bar/club gigs?
No, no, I don't. I hate corporate gigs, to be honest. So I I don't like them at all. They're not. I mean, they're okay. Look, I'm like, you got to tell me which clip that
What's the
was.
corporate
But
one? Yeah. But
no,
what is
I
it?
don't.
Do you like I mean, well,
I don't.
corporate there are parameters and you do have to be clean and avoid words
Yeah,
like at college
yeah,
gigs.
yeah,
But in bar
yeah.
gigs, maybe he's thinking of like when you're at a bar or a
Like,
club, do you feel more like
oh,
you
does he
have to
feel?
be a little
Oh,
more coarse?
no, not at
Coarse.
all.
What am I, my
I
grandmother? I just said
come
coarse.
on,
Like
come on. What is
using
this,
terse language.
1937? You're like, Mia, that is a bit
But
far.
do you feel yeah, that may be more clarification.
No. I don't. No, I don't. I don't feel like I have to. I don't feel like when I'm doing a club set that I have to rely on cursing. I mean, honestly, I like saying bitch. So, I mean, that's one of my favorite things. Like I'll say it 15 times now. Like I
Let's
love
do
being
it.
like
Count it down.
bitch. I mean, oh, what was that 5? No, I'll stop. But
Okay.
no, I don't. Yeah, no, I don't feel. No. I don't feel like I have to say
hmm
it. I mean, I do like that at a club. I can do whatever I want though. Like I do like that because you can pretty much have the freedom to say whatever you want. And corporate gigs, yeah, there's a different mindset that goes into it because you're like, oh yeah, that's right. I can't say what I want here. I have to say stuff that they want me to say or things that I want to say, but are
hmm
within their parameters. So yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, no, but I like saying bitch though. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think, and he said it was the Buckhead Theater clip. So,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
yeah,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I think yeah, I remember that show. Yeah.
awesome. Oh, he followed up too. All right, and just a few more minutes here, kids. So, know we have more people watching, but if you have a question for Mia, toss it
I'll
in.
stay longer. I'll stay a few minutes longer if
Well,
you want me to.
I was
I'm not doing
trying to build demand. I was trying to build a sense of urgency for people to post questions because people were like so jazzed to hear you come on, and they were like, "Mia's awesome," and then now
okay.
like
Look,
nobody's really asking questions, but people are watching.
okay, that's cool. All right.
But Trent followed up.
Okay.
Trent has another one. Hold on. Um, did you wait for people to approach you after gigs to start selling merch? I want merch, but feel like I need to wait for people wanting to connect.
Um. What like? Okay. Let me make sure. Is okay. Are you asking like when do you know when is it the right time to sell merch? Like is that?
Yeah, it sounds like he's saying like I want to sell merch, but don't think people would care yet.
Oh, I mean, I mean, it's really, it's honestly, that's just a thing that's just up to you. Like for the longest time, I didn't sell anything because I kind of thought that too, where I was like, ugh, who wants something that I have? Like, does anybody want anything? And then I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, then it was, well, what do I sell? Then I started selling like I just took one of my jokes or two jokes that have like a catchphrase of or or something that I keep saying throughout my set, and then I just was like, all right, I'm gonna start selling it, and if people buy it, they buy it, and if they don't, they don't. But I mean, obviously, you want to make sure it's the right kind of show to sell things at too, because like you're not going to go to a college show and sell things because college students don't have money to buy anything. You probably also aren't going to do it at oh, it's a bar show where you got paid $50 tonight and you got and a drink ticket. Like sometimes you can sell stuff there, but sometimes you can't. But I mean, most of the times it's better just to try to sell at a club or at, it's certain events where it's the right thing to do. And then you just go and you just take it. And I would just say, whatever you sell, make sure it's something that's not going to break the bank. I mean, like I'd sell koozies. They're
Mm-hmm.
super easy to travel with.
Yep.
They're super cheap to get made. Sometimes I sell cups that have the little phrase on it, but something that's easy and that like you're not looking back in 2 months going, why the hell do I have 75 t-shirts? Or why do I have a box of 100 t-shirts that I'm going to have to donate because
Right.
now I don't even do that joke anymore, So, yeah, so it's not a, yeah, so it's a, yeah, like, and trust me, if people want it, if you're standing there with something after the show, if they want it, it's not up to you to be like, oh, I don't know if these people will want it. They'll let you know if they want it or not, and
Yep.
you'll get the yeah. And when sometimes when you start selling, you'll get the people that are like they just want a little thing to remind them of being at the show, and then
Mm-hmm.
other times you'll have people that go, I don't want to remember this at all, and I will not give you eye contact on the way out the door. But yeah, just take a chance and take something. But I would say start with something small, and then just kind of stand there, but also make sure you're very personable when you're talking to people and don't have that look of like, I need you to buy this thing that I'm selling because I need the
Exactly.
gas money. Nobody wants to buy something from someone that looks like they're desperate and falling apart.
Yeah, definitely start small, something that travels easily. I've found, yeah,
Yeah.
koozies have been like I've done t-shirts, but like the koozies, I mean, I'll sell them for 5, but I've had people buy them for 20. I mean, you know what I mean? Like they'll just like give me a 20 and be like, they more want to support you, and a koozie is a very low entry way for them to do that.
Yeah, because I've had people. I mean, somebody came up to me at a show one time and just was like, "Here, I give you $50 for the last five you got," and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, all right."
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And did you sell mugs at one time?
They're just
They were
plastic
just
stadium.
cups because I remember when we
Yeah,
worked at the Atlanta Improv together when I was
yeah,
hosting, you were featuring, and Chris Porter was headlining.
yeah, yeah,
That was
yeah.
also a weekend I forgot. That was my first time ever forgetting a headliner's name. I only remembered the first name, and I just at the last second found it and was like, Chris. And then he was like, okay. But I remember you just killing all weekend and him being like, dude, she's really funny. And like, I think that was my first time seeing you work a comedy club like night after night and seeing you in action. It was just lights out. But I thought you were selling mugs then, but I guess it was just cups. But
Just big old
okay,
plastic
smart.
cups. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we hope that helps, Trent. So I mean, start small and low entry and low investment too.
Yeah.
The next one here, Ryan McGuckin.
Okay.
Uh,
Hi, Ryan.
the transition from open mics to paid gigs seems like a bit of a gray area to me. Can you expand upon that?
Well, yes, I can. I will do the best that I can. So, it's a comedy has its different levels, and it's really just depending on you how long you stay at that level too. So, obviously, you start out, you're doing your open mics, and you're just using that time to try to get good, and that's what you want to use it for. You want to use it to build up, like, hey, here is my first 5 minutes. Now I got my 10 minutes. Oh, so now if I got 10 minutes, this means I could maybe host at a comedy club if you're doing open mics at a club so that they can see you. And then you just keep building and building your time up. And then again, some of this stuff, like it's not why there is that gray areas because they're really, it's not like going, here's an entry level job and then then you have to apply to this next level, then you apply to this thing, you apply to that thing. It's just really the amount of time you're putting in and where you're putting that time in. So like for me, when I started, the Funny Farm was open in Atlanta. And then I would go there and I would do the open mics a lot. And then I eventually got booked from the open mic to a host, but it was because I was showing consistency at the open mic level. And in fact, I take it back. What I did first, it was an open mic. Then they were like, "Hey, come do a guest spot just to see if I could do a weekend show." Then I started getting asked to host. And then the same thing happened at the Punchline as well. I was doing a lot of the open mics there, and then they were seeing me be consistent at the open mics. And then it was eventually, "Hey, you want to come host on this particular weekend?" And then that's how it kind of started. But it was just being consistent, but being consistent at those clubs. And then
Hmm.
that started leading me to get other stuff. Or somebody's like, "Oh, well, if she's hosting at the Punchline, or oh, she was hosting at the Funny Farm. So, oh, well, now we got this bar show here where we're paying $25 and a drink ticket and some wings. So can you come do this other thing?" And then that's kind of how you get to that level. But it's just, and then always do open mics too. Like I tell people even now, like I'm never too good to do an open mic. Like I mean, I've had people ask me all the time, like, "You want to drop by my mic tonight?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll still do that mic." So that's just my other side note. My addendum
Hmm.
is that don't all still do them, because you can always work out the material. But that's usually how it happens. Is just you're doing the mics, you get consistent at the mics, people see that you're doing well, and then they go, "This person is doing well enough here to where they can do a booked and paid show." But you also have to go to the open mics. So I've known people who over the years will feel like, "Well, I've done 2 open mics, so where's my check?" I've, I've seen people who've never done mic that have been like, "Well, how long does it take before I get paid in comedy?" Like I've seen that happen
Hmm.
too. So yeah, so like yeah, but so do yeah, go in and do the work, and then when you do the work and be consistent with it, somebody's gonna notice.
Yeah, I remember in one of our other interviews, you had a quote of "work gets work,"
Which is where yeah,
and that's so
yeah, and I can't
crucial.
that. Yeah. One of my friends told me that really early in comedy. He kept going like, "Work gets work," because if somebody sees you working, then they're, "Oh, well, let me call Joel, because I saw
Hmm.
Joel, and Joel was killing the other night. So let me get him to come do my show at this place." I mean, that's and because the most of the work you're going to get comes from other comics too. So
Boom,
that's also another thing.
for
Yeah. So
sure.
also just be a cool person. So that helps.
Yeah, being a good coworker, treating the show like your job. But I think what's super important for people to remember is, like you said, being consistently funny at open mics at places where they are booking other shows. Or
Mm-hmm.
like what's interesting about what you just said is that's almost the same formula you use to work up through New York as well. Is it's like
Yeah.
you're being
Mm.
consistently funny at the Comedy Cellar where there are other bookers that see you that then book you at other things. So
Yeah.
that's
And then,
just be consistently
yeah.
funny.
Yeah, and then when I say those other books, those are usually just other comics that
Yeah, that's
run other stuff.
right.
Yeah,
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 but that's how the
at
net.
other
It's
places.
always it's usually
Yeah.
that's kind of the progression. Is it is more like you're in an open mic, and then a comic sees you, and then book, and then like, "Hey, will you
Mm-hmm.
come do a spot on my booked mic?" It's not necessarily paid, but it's a step up. Maybe you're on a flyer now, getting fancy, and then from there,
Yeah.
maybe they someone in the audience has a holiday party coming up they want to book you for. Or like, it's all starts though
Yeah.
with being funny.
And let me also clarify, at the cellar, that's not an open mic, guys. Just for
No,
anyone listening. No,
no, no, no, no,
just
no,
as anybody runs to Newark and is like, "I'm gonna get on at the cellar tonight." You're probably
no, no, no,
not.
no. The cellar is the top of the pyramid when it
Hold it.
comes to comedy. Yeah, no, no, yeah, no, no. But I'm saying even even you being
But work
there, the same rules
it helps.
apply. Be funny
Yeah,
there,
it
and then
does.
other people will want to book you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because other people, like, I think I'm trying to think. It's just been, I can't even name the amount of times I've just been sitting around at the table eating wings, and somebody's like, "Oh, well, we got a show at this other club, or we got this show in Brooklyn, or we got a show, like, do you want to come do my show that I host, or do you want to come do my podcast?" Like I've been invited to stuff just from hanging around, where somebody's like, "Oh, I've seen you here multiple times."
Yeah, that's something I wish I paid more attention to earlier on. No regrets, but I do see the value in just being around and being accessible.
Yeah,
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 early on
yeah,
I would just go up and then leave, but
yeah.
or
No,
be yeah,
you
you
gotta
gotta hang
hang.
out. You gotta hang. It's part of the job.
Yeah, and no
Yep.
one says you gotta be there all night long, but you do gotta stick around and chat
Hmm.
with people, and just kind of and
It's your
be cool.
it's
Like,
your
yeah,
workspace.
yeah. And someone told me very early, they were like, and also just don't be a dick. Like that was
Yep.
one of the best
Hmm.
pieces of advice that I got.
It's true
So
though.
it's
Uh,
very true.
Carter Bryant shouted
Oh,
you
it's
out.
harder.
He
Hey,
sent me a DM with an image of you two together. He
It was at a show in New York.
yeah.
Yay. Yeah, and I was like, oh, what? Oh, okay. They were like, you were on this podcast. I was like, I was.
That's my favorite
Yeah.
is when a guest is like, "Yo, someone just came up to me and said they saw me on Hot Breath." It's like your late night set or something. They're like, "I saw you on Hot Breath."
Yeah, it was super
It's my
cool.
favorite.
Yeah.
He said he loved your makeup video also. So,
Oh, the Don't Rush challenge.
hmm.
Yes. Which they took the music down on Facebook, but if you go to my Instagram, you can actually hear the song in the background.
Ooh, yes, at
Yes.
Mia Comedy.
At Mia Comedy, yes.
So, we have another one here from I want to say this right. Nikolic. Sasa Nikolic, I think. I don't know. There's listeners all over the world. Like
Word.
we're on
Okay.
every continent except Antarctica right now. Not saying that Sasa's not from America. It very well could easily be. Okay, anyway. I'm too white to say anything about race.
You just settle yourself
Yeah.
down. You just settle down.
That's what we call her
You
Mama
s-
Mia. She always knows the place. So, Sasa asked, what's some of your favorite writing advice you received that has helped you out most in your career? Ooh.
Let's see. The thing that helped me the most. So let me tell you about a girl named Mia, you guys. When Mia first started, Mia's me, by the way. No, when I first started, I used to just sometimes I would just get on stage and just talk, 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 talk. And I would like have little random pieces of paper with notes written down. And I remember a comic took me out to the side and he was like, you're really funny. He said, but every time I see you, you're always talking about something completely different and you're not working on the stuff that
Mm.
is working and the stuff that has potential. So why don't you just write that stuff down? So best piece of advice I can say is one, record your sets, record every single one of them, um, and then go back and listen to that set and then transcribe that set. And then when you transcribe the set, go back and take notes and see where people laughed and see where they didn't laugh. And just, and also one of the things you can do just as a comparison, whatever joke you're like, oh, I want to try this out. This is something I want to do the next time I get on stage. So you type the joke, write everything down from that joke, and then you try to commit, that to memory. And now you got that written out. And so then when you take that to the stage, record the set and then transcribe it and then kind of look back and forth to go, oh, this was how I wrote the joke. This is what I actually said. Because a lot of times, when you're thinking in the written word, that's not how you always naturally talk. So sometimes when you're on stage, things will come out the way you naturally want it to come out.
Hmm.
So then when you go and look at those notes, you're like, oh, okay, well, I wrote it this way, but this is what I actually said. And you know what? This actually sounds better. Or, oh, I actually forgot this thing that I wanted to say. So next time I go on stage, let me add this one line in. But you just go through and give yourself, like you said, oh, this was the setup and this is the punchline. And, oh, or this was the thing I said by accident and this person laughed at. And then you start working from that as a master document and you just keep refining from that point on. So that usually helps me because there was one joke that I had that I kind of had bits and pieces of it and I kind of talked it out just in conversation with friends. And then
Mm.
one night I went and did the joke and I went, oh, that's like the best version of that joke so far. So this is the one that I need to transcribe. And then from there I started trimming the fat on that joke. And then I got it as tight, as tight, as tight as possible. And that's the joke that I used to open up the half hour with.
What is that trimming And Sasha says love it, thank you. And it's pronounced Sasha, and I'm from Chicago, so I'm so sorry. I hope we didn't lose a
Sasha
member of
was
the
like,
Hot
I
Breathiverse with
don't,
this. Yeah,
I was, I don't live in Antarctica.
I meant nothing by it, honestly. I appreciate you spending the time here with us. And so, yeah, to peel it back another layer, when you're talking about, I like you talking about talking it out in conversation and finding the funny that way. But then, what is that trimming of the fat process?
The trimming of the fat is just when you go through and look at those notes and you're like, oh, okay, let's say, I got a 4 or 5 lines in a joke, and you're like, oh, they laughed at this, they laughed at this. I wanted them to laugh at this, but they didn't laugh at this. And let's say you've done that joke 2 or 3 times and they're not laughing at that line,
Mm-hmm.
then just scrap it. And now you've taken that line out, and now you've tightened up that joke even more because you're not saying that thing that wasn't working anymore. And then you just keep doing that over and over and over and over until it drives you crazy. But yeah, but it's certain jokes I can remember. Like, I remember it was one joke I used to do. This was years and years ago, but I used to have this joke about The Bachelor, and I don't do it anymore. But I just had all these different things where I'd be like, and then he said this, and then this thing, and then this thing, and then blah blah blah, and then one day I remember recording that set, and then I was like, oh, all these 4 or 5 things I was rambling about, no one even cared. No one even listened to
Mm.
that part. But I'm like, but when I hit this part and then I hit this line, that's what people responded to the most. And then I deleted those 3 or 4 lines that weren't working. And then the next time I got on stage and I went, oh, now this is the joke. This is the joke now, because I've gotten rid of the things that are where I'm just talking too much. And then, you'll hear the phrase economy of words, where like
Right.
least amount of words I can use to make a point about something. And so that's just like, oh, I was using way too many words for that joke when I was just trying to say this one thing.
Yeah,
I'm
Mark
sorry.
Mark Norman mentioned that when he was on here, mentioning, like, yeah, simplifying. Oh yes, you and Mark, fellow, you both went on tour with Amy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he talked about simplifying the joke. A lot of times we try to overcomplicate it with words, but it really is about what are the minimum amount of words, and what is, like, making the joke easily understandable as well. Don't make it too, like, confusing or clever.
Yeah, yeah. And then sometimes, and if something is too clever, like if it's something that I really like, but I think it's too clever, I'll then even do almost like a wink and a nod afterwards, where I'm like, guys, you know what? That really was just all for me. Like, that was
Hmm.
like, I enjoyed that. I know you didn't, but I did. And then some people will be like, oh, she acknowledged that was the most ridiculous thing she could have said. So yeah, but you just try to go, what's the easiest way that I can say this? Because
Mm.
like, what's the easiest way? And because, sometimes I think we assume, sometimes you be like, people won't know what I'm talking about. And there are certain things where people won't know, but you can even use those things that they don't know as an opportunity to teach in that joke too. So so sometimes it's things that people don't know, you add to it. And then there are things that are widely known where you're like, oh, I don't have to give this much exposition and explanation. I can just get to what I'm trying to say.
And you'll
Yeah.
try a joke, you said, about like 3 times or so before you kind of just
Yeah.
iron it out.
Yeah, about 3 or 4 times. And then if I'm like, oh, they keep laughing at the same thing and they're not laughing at this thing, let me just drop this part of this joke altogether, because this thing just isn't working.
And that's part of the discipline of being a comedian, is just honoring the data and being like, you know what, no matter how much I love this line and how clever this alliteration was, and they respect my consonants here. It's like,
Yeah,
if you, at some point you got to kill it,
yeah, yeah,
there
yeah.
will
Where you're
be
like,
more.
right, because you're like, I can keep writing, but yeah, and I've had friends that I'll write with, and I'll be like, take that line out, like it
Yeah.
doesn't work,
Hmm.
and I'm like, no, 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 I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm like, okay, you know what? Go on, suit yourself. Yeah,
But that's
that's
something
yeah,
I learned from you early on is I remember you and Landry would write together a lot.
yeah,
Another
yeah. We still do.
hilarious comedian. Oh, you still will. So
Yeah, we still do all the time.
what
Yeah.
do those sessions look like? What exactly are you guys doing? Cuz I think there's room for people here listening and viewing and in this Facebook group to like start maybe applying some of these things.
What we will do. So when I write, there's a thing. I'll start off with not enough stuff. And
Hmm.
so he can then help me like fill in the blanks on something where he's like, oh, well, why didn't you say this? Or why didn't you say this thing? And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. And then he writes a lot from the beginning. And so what I end up doing, I'll either, get on I go into Google Docs and then he always laughs because I use the strike through feature when I
Ah.
edit his jokes. And
Uh-huh.
so I'll be like, take this out, take this out. So he'll go, wow, you got rid of a whole section. And I'm like, yeah, because you didn't need that part. And he'll go back and read it and he'll be like, you know what? You're right. He was like, I didn't need all that stuff. And then when he gives me advice, I'm like, you're right. I didn't say enough. And I do need to say a little bit more to, you know, like not more in the point where, not more to the point where I'm talking too much, but it's like, oh, I need to give just a little bit more information to make this punchline make sense. Or I needed to, this setup needed to make a little bit more sense.
So you'll
Yeah.
send each other the jokes in written form and edit them that way. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is interesting. This is an interesting take as well. Trent jumped in here. How quick does a new joke go from pin to stage?
Um, it depends. Like if it's something I'm really, really excited about, like if something happened and I've had a conversation with someone, like and this might have been the joke from the This Week at the Cellar, but there was since I've been in New York, I was noticing that a lot of people stop and ask me for directions. And like
Hmm.
this is just a real thing in real life where I'm always like, why do people keep stopping me in the joke that and so in real life, and I say this in a joke, but in real life, I was walking down the street and this man, it was just like, hey, I like your size. Like I like and I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, so I'm in conversation telling, one of my friends, oh, yeah, some dude just told me he liked my size. And I was like, I said, what does that mean? I said, is that a compliment? I'm like, I said, because most people will be like, I like your shape, or, you got a fat ass, or, something like that. And I said, but this dude is like, and I said, what do you want? I'm like, I said, maybe he wants to recruit me for a basketball team. Maybe he, like, what does
Uh
he
huh.
want from me? And so, because I was so excited talking about that in conversation, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna slide this in tonight on stage. And since I already have jokes about being tall, because I was so excited about it, I'm like, boom. And then that joke started working like right off the bat because it was just a fresh thing. But then I have other jokes where I'm like, here's a story that I've told in my personal life or privately off stage where my friends will be like, man, every time you tell that story's so funny. And I'll be like, I really don't know if I want to do that one, but
Yeah.
yeah, so it depends. Like sometimes it'll be if I'm really excited about something, I might if I'm going on stage that night and I can slide it in, I'll do it. But then I have other jokes, so I'm like, I need a little bit more time on this, and I need to feel okay before I take this to the stage.
And it's
So it
fascinating you
really,
said that something you're excited about. So it's something you're like
Mhm.
going to be able to perform and really like deliver and make believable.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And then I got other stuff like I said that I do like just like talking about off stage. Um, but then I don't know if I would necessarily say it on stage. And then, like, because I had a joke that I started doing recently, or just kind of popping in and out of my set, but it's gonna sound in poor taste, which is why I have to preface this. But I was when I was watching, you remember when the Aaron Hernandez documentary came out?
Mm-hmm.
And so in conversation, I was just telling someone, I was like, man, I was listening to the jailhouse conversation between him and his fiance, and he asked her to bring him some Harry Potter books. And then I was like, even in that conversation, you could tell that she was just over it. Like beyond him being a murderer, she was just like, I don't want to bring you these damn books, you know. And I was like, you know, and I said, you're in jail. Like, why do you want a whimsical fantasy novel? Like, why do you get to read books about children, wizards, when you're in jail? And like, obviously you like Slytherin.
Hmm.
And so I just, and so I'm just saying that just like a conversation. And I went, oh, this makes me chuckle. It's like, it's not typically something I would talk about on stage, but I did it a few times. And I was like, guys, I want to say this joke, but it might be tacky. And people were like, say it. And so obviously I'm talking a lot about it right now, saying a lot of words, but I did it more in joke form on stage. But like
Yeah.
people with it, where people were like, oh, you're so silly, you know, but it was like, oh, it was just an interesting take I had in conversation that I wanted to do. Like, and I think maybe a week after I saw the documentary is when I did the joke. So
That's so fun. A
yeah.
lot of it is coming from you being funny in
Mhm.
conversation, which I think is very
Mhm.
helpful for me. As
Yeah.
I first heard that from Clayton English, and where he's like, I try to pay attention to how I'm funny in real life, and then take it
Yeah.
to the stage. So I think especially for newer comics who are always like, well, how do I use the math to make this word funny? It's like, well, how are you
Mhm.
naturally funny? What are you
Yeah.
naturally excited about? And that'll bring out your natural
Yeah.
voice on stage.
Yeah. Like, how are you funny as a real person
Right.
instead of getting out of your head and going? And yeah, and there is a formula to things being funny. Like,
And there's
yeah, there needs to be a set
structure, yeah.
yeah, there needs to be a structure, but
Hmm.
yeah, but like I think some people get so married to the idea of like it has to go this way, and this way. But it's like, no, why'd your friend laugh at that story that you told them the
Hmm.
other day? And let me also add this to it now. After you become a funny comedian on stage, what you should not do now, don't now try to add jokes into conversation with people. Like if something organically comes
Ah,
up,
uh-huh.
then cool. Like if you're organically going, oh, you know, because everybody's been watching Tiger King. And if you're talking about that and you're having a funny conversation about that with somebody and there's something you can use from that, sure. But don't start off a conversation going, by the way, the Tiger King, crazy, right? 'Cause, like don't run jokes on people. Like
Hmm.
you having an organic conversation with someone, cool, but don't run jokes because comics can tell. Like I've known so many people over the years. I've been like, are you doing a bit right now?
Right.
Like, are
My wife will do that with me. Yeah. She can sniff them
you
out, not by laughing, but just by calling them out of like, don't do material. Trent said he has. I have a transit worker body. That was one of his favorite lines of yours. I have a
oh
transit
yeah, the
worker
train.
body.
The train. Yeah, I'm glad he said it because I totally forgot that whole joke since I haven't been on stage. I'm like, oh, I did say I have a yes because and
That's on your comedy cellar set.
that was the this week at the cellar because I said I have a transit informational
Mm.
shaped body. And when I say that in New York, like I mean it's been so funny because I kept going, people keep asking me for directions, like, am I shaped like an MTA worker? Like I must be shaped like a
Oh.
train lady. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
train lady now. And I've had people like one guy actually came up to me at a show because I was so excited about telling the joke where he was like, yo, I work for the MTA, and he was like, you shape better than the MTA ladies. And I was like, thank
What a pickup line.
you.
Did
Thank you.
How did the wording of that joke occur? Did it just come out that way, or did you rework the specific verbiage of it?
Um, I think how was it? I think I just blurted it out one day, like when I was. I think when it happened, when I kept getting people asking me for directions, I
Uh
kept
huh.
going and because it happens in the street, but it happens a lot on the train where people are like, do you know if this one goes uptown or does this train go to such and such? And I was like, oh no, I have a transit body. I have a transit informational body. And then I'm like, I have a transit informational shaped body. And so I'm like, oh,
Oh.
that's the phrase. I'm like, and then I'd be like, I got train titties. I'm a train lady, you know? So,
Yeah, yeah. And then you try a
yeah.
bunch of different things around that theme to see what sticks or not.
Yeah. And then one of my, tags to the joke, cause I end up saying like, I'm like, oh, I mean, this lady just still standing there. And I go, she won't go in the store. And then I go, ma'am, are you going in the store or not? And she goes, oh, I'm going in. And I just go, okay, well, then you need to stand clear of the closing doors. And like,
Ah.
and so, but that came about because one of my friends heard it and he was like, oh, you know what? I think you can close that joke out by making a train announcement. But I didn't know what the train announcement would be. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And so the next time I was on the train, I just started listening to all the train announcements. And I'm like, oh, pretty much anytime I've been on a train anywhere in any city, they always say stand clear of the closing doors. And then another thing that I do, because sometimes I'm performing in places that don't have mass transit, sometimes I will drop that line altogether. And I'll even just say that where I go, and I go, now I'm scared if I go to a city that doesn't have mass transit, I'm just going to have people running up to me off the streets and have kids running up going, when is my mom coming to pick me up? And I'm like, I'll call her because I have a transit body. And so,
Right.
so that's what I try to do in other places too, where I go, oh, if this works in major cities, but this might not work in a small town. So,
Very
yeah.
clever. All right.
Mm,
Well,
yeah.
let's get to these last two here. Trent's piling them on here. He's
Huh?
because like you said, clever. He's like, being too clever is a problem I have. It sounds preconceived. Do you think these days people want to believe you're coming up with it on the spot? For example, puns, rhymes, etc.
I think when if you're doing puns and you're doing things that are super clever, like just acknowledge it. Just like I was saying, I think I mentioned it earlier, where it's like if it's something that I think this is really silly or I think this is ridiculous, like you just feel like, you know what, that's ridiculous, and I know that. I mean, and that's the thing. Like people, I think what people want to see on stage, they just want to know that you're being yourself. They want to know that you're having a good time. They want to know that that what you're saying is real to you, so that it comes across as real to them. And because I remember one time, it just as an example, and this has nothing to do with the clever part. I remember a comic who she kept talking about being married and having kids on stage, and then when she got off stage, I was like, "You're not married and you don't have kids," and she was like, she burst out laughing. She was like, "How'd you know?" And I was like, "I could just tell." I was like, "It was just something that just made me like I knew." And she was like, "Oh, that's so funny," because she was like, "Some people like don't always know that," and she was like, "Yeah, I just made up this whole thing." And so I think people want to see you being real. And so if something is a very clever thing and you acknowledge that it's a clever thing, you can say it, and you can also say it without being a jerk to people. You can be like not because I've also seen comments that'll be like, that one went over your head, guys, and you don't. You like I've seen that kind of thing. But if you're like, look,
Right.
I like puns, guys. You're gonna hear these all night, so you either get with this or you don't get with it. You know what I mean? So like, if you got a bunch of puns, say all that shit back to back, and just tell people like, I like puns. I like puns, and I'm gonna keep doing them. So you get with the puns or you don't get with the.
Boom.
We're gonna have pun tonight. Just tell people
Right.
like, just acknowledge it. Yeah,
If it's authentically you, then they'll go along with you. That's what.
yeah, for sure.
All right. And oh, he likes it. He says that's great. Acknowledge the silliness. Thank you. So
Yeah.
the final question here is
Sure.
from Mr. Hold on, let's get a drum roll. From Wayne Flake Jr. He
All right.
says, we always hear about, he spelled here Here, but we won't worry about that. That was very,
Joel.
that was,
You put Sasha in Antarctica, and now this is this what the quarantine has done to you?
oh man. I'm sorry, Wayne. Oh man.
You let
Anyway,
Wayne speak his.
you're
Let's
right.
hear it, Wayne.
You're right. He says, we always hear about what to do when writing jokes. What are some things we might want to avoid?
Let's see. Well, we're not going to worry about grammar. We don't worry about spelling.
Oh, let's get a little air horn for that.
No, no. Let me see. You know what? I'm trying to think. What do you want? I mean, like the don't be too married to the idea of going, I have to type this exactly or to write this exactly how it's going to sound on stage, because there will, like I mentioned it earlier, there will be some variation. So like I always just tell people, like, don't, like, just don't be like, I have to say this, and like, one, just get it out your system. So that's the main thing. Like, don't limit yourself when you're writing. Don't go, oh, let me edit this before I even say it. Like, no, just write it all down. Like, so don't even, just get it, any and everything you want to say on that topic, write it out. Like, get it all out of your head. So, and I still suffer from that sometimes, where I'll go, well, I don't want to say this thing, and I'm like, well, wait, why do I not want to say that thing? Like, no, let me just say it first, and then I'll make the decision. So the main thing is, yeah, just don't edit yourself before it gets on stage. Don't limit yourself. Just let it all out.
Boom.
Get it all out.
Very nice. All right. I love that. That's a good one. That's a good one to end on, I think. I mean, it's really is just don't limit yourself, really.
Yeah.
Oh, and he called me a grammar Nazi. So I apologize. Hey, just because I have blonde hair, blue eye doesn't mean I'm a Nazi, okay?
Right. Your face is triggering for people,
It
Joel.
really is. It's all well deserved though. Well earned.
No, well, I mean, there are some systemic things we don't have time to discuss. You're right.
Right.
You're fine. You're fine though.
I'm one of the good ones though. Thank you, Mia. I get a pass.
You just told yourself you were one of the good ones, Joel.
I'm really digging here. Anyway,
Joel, it's time for us to go. It's time for us to get off.
It is time for us to land this plane. Before we do get out of here, is there anything else that you want the world to know?
No. Just
Okay.
no. Just, you know what, guys? Just write. Write. Go. We got a lot of time right now, so go listen to some of your sets that you've recorded. Go watch them. See what kind of things you can make some adjustments to. I mean, you won't be able to perform in front of anybody right now, but start taking some notes, and you know what? Also, chill out too. Take some time to chill. Like, it's been a lot of memes going around where people are like, "You need to come out of this quarantine with a new business." How? And how am I gonna come out with a new business if I don't have nobody to sell the shit to? Like, come on. Like, I don't know if I could curse or not, but I've been cursing periodically.
Say it. Let it go.
My point is, it's like, don't feel pressured by the quarantine to have to create. I mean, if you feel like writing, do it. And then when you do have those moments where you feel like doing it, like I said, listen to your set, watch videos, watch some other comics, and watch the other comics to learn. There's a lot of great comedy on Netflix and Comedy Central, and there's so much stuff on YouTube. But just, see what other comics are talking about. Like, pick some of your favorite comics and watch, see how those people are structuring their material. Watch some of their earlier sets and watch some of their later sets to see how they evolved over time. So
yeah. Go to joelbyerscomedy.com and check out that comedy special and see how the jokes are structured. Yeah. The Trophy Husband comedy special now available. Yeah.
Trophy Husband.
My comedy just turned 10. I released it on my 10-year anniversary on February 1st. So it's like,
congratulations.
We're getting up there, Mia.
You're out here. You're a 10-year-old in comedy. I love it.
Feels good. Well, Mia, you have been amazing to come on here and be so generous with your time and information, but also just throughout my comedy career, you've been beyond helpful and generous also with your time off stage, and I learned so much from you just as a friend and as a peer, seeing you work so much. So all your success is so well earned and deserved, and I look forward to continuing to see this trajectory you're on. It's people that join this live Q&A, you are witnessing greatness. So thank you so much for being a part of this, Mia.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, we love you all. We will see y'all again. Goodbye, Hot Breathiverse. Oh, and where can they support you? MiaComedy.com And
Yeah, I mean,
all
my
social
website is
media?
Mia Jackson. My
Mia
website is
Jackson.
just Mia Jackson. Yeah,
Okay.
MiaJackson.com. And then I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Mia Comedy. And I'm on Facebook too. So you can find me. If someone's friends with you, then they can be friends with me because I have one of those pages where you got to be friends with somebody to add me.
Okay,
So
cool.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, yeah, go support Mia. Go watch her Comedy Cellar set and her Comedy Central half hour, and you'll learn a lot in context for what we talked about today. So, Mia Jackson, thank you for being on Hot Breath Live.
Thank you. All right. Bye.
Bye.